This is going to be a case of you can't do something without doing something else, because I don't like welding upside down. And the bracket we're going to try to fix today would require me to weld upside down. And I can't put it on the lift because the Camaro is still underneath the lift with a flat tire now. So we're pulling it in like this, and I'm going to take all the front stuff off and the fender off, because you can't take the fender off without taking the grill off. Away we go. Yes, I know the headlight is crooked. All right, there are two bolts up in here. There's one on this side right here. There's another one right here, and you're going to need to take these two out. Tell you what, an adjustable head ratcheting combination, the only way to really get to these and not drive yourself insane. You can get on them with a ratchet, but not to the degree that you can doing like I'm doing right now. Ford intended for these grills to not go anywhere. That's the center of the grill loosened up. All right, so there is this bolt right here, but this one actually is part of the fender assembly, not the grill assembly. Now there are other points of fastening on this. There's one here on a bracket. There's one here in the dead center. And there's another one over here. And these are going to need to come out as well on your truck. You don't necessarily need to take the top plate out of these in order to pull all this off, because you start taking things off and pretty soon you have the entire front end of your truck disassembled. All that's left though is to go ahead and get these outside bolts done. I'm going to try to show that to you where they're at and what you need to do. On our truck, we have a Vintage Air AC system in here. Our filter dryer is over here on those brackets right there. So it's a little different than what you would normally encounter on an F100. You wouldn't normally have to deal with that, but we get to, because we got the cool AC from Vintage Air. Rather have that problem right now than a hot truck all through the summer. All right, so I'm going to take out my grill sections now because they are starting to get troublesome. I've got one of them held in with a zip tie. Don't judge. Okay, there's 6 of these screws in here that you have to take out. This makes access and work in here a lot easier. There are clips that go in here, plastic clips, and they can and do break off. The ones in this one are pretty shot. I'm going to get a new kit from the guys at National Parts Depot to put these back in here to rights. Probably refinish my grill pieces. Who knows, maybe while I got this thing apart, I'll polish my grill. All right, I've already taken these out. I got a little ahead of myself and started working. Cam and I both will do that sometimes. What I wanted to talk about is where the bolts are on here to remove this fender. You have to take the grill assembly loose from the fender itself, because the bolts for the grill assembly go through the fender. And there's like 2 locations on top. And I'll show you those underneath here. I'll run up underneath here with it. Now, we have our AC system in here. There's a bolt that's supposed to be right up here. I never could quite get that one to work in there the way I wanted it to, so I never installed it. But this bolt right here was enough so far for us with the dryer on this truck. There's another bolt that's way up here in the top, near the top corner of the truck. There's one down right about here, which you may or not be able to see, but you'll just know that it's on an angle like right here. There's another one here. There's one here. And there's one here that I haven't finished up yet. All right, and then there's one down here in the bottom. Now this one that goes in here is actually held in with a nut and bolt configuration. There's a nut on this side and a bolt on this side of the fender. Then there's this final one here that I'll bring out and get it out of the way, and then we'll be done with taking these bolts off. I don't know what Ford was thinking, but they really didn't want these trucks to have any chance of coming apart whenever you're driving them. And like I said, every one of the rest of these is held in with a J-clip, except these two bottom ones. This one here is also held in with a nut and bolt configuration because of where it's at. All right, I got one last grill bolt to take out. That's this one up in here. It's a bugger to get out of here because it will do just what it did and fall down inside the chassis. All right, that should be that loose enough for me to get this fender off now. There's one bolt up here on top that holds the, I guess, diverter for air down to the fender and the inner fender right here. All right, I'm about to pull the last 4 bolts. That's these 4 right here. I'm going to probably leave this one in play for me to be able to get the fender. Nah, I'm going to pull them all out. The way my morning's gone, this is normal. And that wasn't even tight. All right, now normally on these fenders, when you go to take them off, there's a bolt inside of the cab that you have to take out. I'll show you that in just a second. And then there's a bolt up underneath. I'll also show you that as soon as I get the fender off and get it on the floor. Oh, that's right. I put seam sealer all along this edge here, so it's stuck on the seam sealer. Truck that's really old, this is not going to be a problem because the seam sealer will be so dried up you won't need to worry about it. But I got the good stuff. There we go. Didn't mean to drop it, but like you do, sometimes you do. All right, so here we go. I have 2 things that happened here on this particular truck. This brace did not break because of a failure of the metal, I don't think. I think this brace failed. This bolt that is up inside the cab let go and fell out. I was driving down the road one day and I heard a kind of a clunky noise and I thought I ran over a rock or something, but I found out later when this failed that this was also gone. So I think this failed first. The bolt was not in there tight enough, or it wasn't the right bolt, or whatever I did wrong. This wasn't the way it was supposed to be, and that caused this to have more undue stress on it than it needed, and it came out and broke off. It just broke off. It may have been already broken. I don't know, but I don't think so. I don't think that's the case with this one. In any case, I've got to take that out because the brace is still in there holding on for dear life. So I'm going to pull that out and see if we can either use that one or have to make another one. And all that, to pull all that out, and I'm still going to have to weld upside down because the brace is not exposed. It's underneath a pinch weld right there. Yeah. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how this thing sits in here. Pretty sure It sits like this. Oh, nope, it's this way. Like right about there. All right, so I've got my body working tools in here. I've got my point hammer and my comma dolly. I'm not sure if that's what it's really called. That's what I've always called it. I'm gonna try to squirrel this up in here and bring that this back into play. Just almost enough room in there. Not quite. I have to pound on the other piece a little bit as well. This piece is also bent here. I'm going to beat this one in a little bit off camera, so to speak. Make them flat. That goes right there. Let's get the break point on it. Necessity is the mother of invention. I'm not inventing this, but what I've got here is 4 magnets stacked to multiply their power. I'll set them up in here just above where we need to have this bracket sitting. Bracket goes in, and maggots hopefully will hold it in place. Hoping my idea here will work. I hate welding upside down. In case I haven't told you, I hate welding upside down. Well, if that comes out, yeah, there's a bigger problem afoot. Hot, hot, hot. All right, I'm just gonna get my grinder over here, actually my belt sander, and I'm gonna belt sand this flat. And I'm gonna come in with some Rust-Oleum paint, paint it up with some Rust-Oleum, and then that's good for me to mount the fender back on. I'm not gonna show you how the fender goes back on, but I am gonna give you a couple of alignment tips after I get the fender back on, so that you'll know how to make that work out and not have humongous gaps on the top of your fenders. Okay? Okay. All right, so we've got our bracket welded back up. Now I'm going to go in and show you how to adjust the beauty line on the fender to get a nice tight fit against the cowl area. A lot of guys talk about how you can't fix that. I beg to differ. There is a way to fix it because there's a bolt that a lot of people may or may not know about on the inside of these. Is it going to be perfect? No. Because it's a truck, and these guys they didn't worry as much about that on the trucks as they did on the passenger cars. But there is a way to get it as close as you possibly can to a really good tight fit. So away we go. First thing I'm going to do is pull my little cart out of the way and shut my door and make sure I'm not going to crack my trim. I'm not. Now my door is fully shut. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick this up. And I'm not going to worry so much about the bolt on there because once we get the bolt inside the door set, this will all be fine. That's pretty good. We're about even on our beauty line across here. Fender right now is sitting a little proud, but that will change once we start bolting everything up. Now the reason I'm sitting on my go-kart here, so to speak, is because once you get that set, you do not want to go in and start moving around inside the cab of the truck. You want to be outside of it to do your finals. All right, you have a bolt. This is your 1/2 inch bolt. This goes into a J-clip that is on the inside of that fender, and what you're going to want to do is take your dome light out because it will give you better access to that hole. There is no corresponding hole on the inside of the panel like there is on a lot of the cars like the Galaxies and Mustangs, where you can access that point for this upper fender spot. They quit doing that after 1966 on the Mustangs and after 1965 on the Falcons. You have to 2-finger grip it like that. You can't really get your thumb up in there. You might be able to use a ratchet to do that, but it's going to be pretty tough. Now I've got it in there loosely, and I'm going to use a 1/4 drive with a 1/2 inch socket in a deep well. Go up in there again. Tightened up correctly, this won't sag out. Remember, don't put any weight on the cab. Now that that's getting tight, I'm going to pull in my 3/8 drive 1/2 inch on a shorty because I can get more torque on it. All right, that should be tight enough. Now I'm going to put my dome light switch back in. Because I've already set my outside line. As long as it didn't sit inside the truck to do this, I should be good to go. Okay, door should shut fine. Good to go down there. Got a nice line on that now. It's out a little bit. I'm okay with that on this truck, especially in the condition everything is in on it. Now I'm going to pull this out. And your fender's going to sag out just a hair. Now pull it back. And the bottom bolt is a 9/16. So what I want to do now is I want to look my fender, and what I've got is the fender is rolled a little bit out this way in the front. This fender has seen quite a bit of damage, so I may not be able to get that to work. I'm going to go ahead and start my bolt. I'm not going to make it super deep. I just want it in there. And I've already figured out how many shims I probably need. I might need more, but this is what you're going to want. You're going to want some shims to put in here for body work. You can buy shims at like Harbor Freight and places like that as well. What I'm doing is I'm feeling, they were a little high right here, but again, this fender has been damaged a lot. That's a pretty good lie right there. I'm going to take and just barely tighten it up with my 9/16. There we go. That's good enough for driver duty. It's a little tight at the bottom. I might be able to do something with that by putting a screwdriver in there and pulling that bottom edge out a little bit. I'll go ahead and try to do that. It's a little dangerous for your paint though. If you put it in a sneaky spot like that, now, if this were a final paint truck, this was the way the color is going to look, I would not do it just with a screwdriver like I just showed you. I would actually take my time and go in and put a piece of leather on either side of this, or I would have used plastic trim tools to get in there and separate that panel out. The nice thing about the F-Series trucks is the door is kind of in the wind. It can drop out a little bit more than you can with a passenger car because your gapping down here is pretty broad. There's a lot of room. I mean, I can stick my finger up in there and like all the way up to the first joint. So yeah, but we now have a decent looking little fender here. Actually came out pretty nice. Our gap is really nice on there. And that's all about that upper bolt. Well, that's it, folks. That's our episode for this week. Do me a favor, be kind to each other, love on each other, treat each other nice. You guys have a great week, and we'll see you next time on Autorestomod.